SASSA will pay social grants to older persons and persons with disability from tomorrow until Tuesday, while other beneficiaries will be able to receive their grants on April the 1st. The Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, says that the move will make it easier for congestion and overcrowding as the SABC tries to limit the number of workers in its building. SABC reporter and senior anchor Chriselda Lewis is broadcasting from her home here in Johannesburg and joins us now. Very good afternoon to you, Chriselda. It's very good to see that you're safe where you are at this time. Of course, Chriselda, some of the most vulnerable in society will begin receiving their social grants from tomorrow. Can you just give us a sort of update in terms of what the Minister Lindiwe Zulu had to say with regards to that yesterday? We saw at the press briefing that she was quite detailed in terms of what they should be expecting. But the concern, of course, as we've seen over the years, that there's always overcrowding when it comes to people receiving their social grants. So what indeed will the measures be in terms of protecting everyone who will then be starting to come in and receive their social grants?
Well, good afternoon, Flo. I think let's start off with crunching those numbers. There are a total of 11.3 million grant beneficiaries in South Africa who together receive over 18 million grants each month. So if we look at the total amount, it's at approximately 14 billion is paid to grant beneficiaries monthly. So SASSA serves approximately 3 million older persons and 1 million persons with disabilities who collect those disability grants. So what we're looking at here in terms of the numbers is 4 million people or beneficiaries between tomorrow and Tuesday who will be given first preference, of course, those living with disabilities as well as those receiving the old age grants. Those have been brought forward, as you correctly point out, Flo. This is to avoid issues such as overcrowding. You would know during a time that these SASSA grants are being dispensed, there are long lines in some instances where there are quite a number of beneficiaries at particular pay points. So what they're trying to do in light of South Africa trying to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the country, the issue of social distancing, you would recall, was one of the main issues that government continues to be concerned about. We heard the President speak there in Polokwane as well, where he mentioned the issue of certain South Africans who are still not complying with some of the regulations. So since the lockdown itself got underway, government has been concerned about the issue of social distancing in some areas where people would go to supermarkets and not maintain that distance between them and someone else in front or at the back of them who is trying to get some supplies. So this will be key to the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, as they try to ensure, as government tries to ensure that they dispense without problems those social grants, and having it over these particular periods. You would know then that the disability grant and the old age grant is being paid out earlier, which is tomorrow and on Tuesday, and then you will have the other beneficiaries who will receive on the 1st of April. So in order to avoid a circumstance where you would get a lot of people in one line, this is why this has also now been split. What we also heard from the Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu was that they will be roping in the South African Police Service together with the South African National Defence Force to ensure that everything goes according to plan. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Payments will be done from the 30th to the 31st of this month, starting with older persons and persons with disability, and this will also include women with babies, and I'm hoping that women with babies can be able to leave the babies at home when they go get their social grants. All other social grants will be paid on the 1st of April as per normal schedule. Both SASSA and the South African Post Office have finalized all logistical arrangements pertaining to social grant payments. When we say we've arranged all logistical arrangements, the understanding and appreciation also must be that we are sure we will find in some instances where these are not adequate. So we are having a conversation with the Department of Transport and the Minister of Transport, who will be engaging in terms of looking at the time times for people to be able to take the transport to the areas where they are supposed to get their social grants. But further to that, we are also talking to the Departments of Defense, and we are looking at what other extra support can we get, because we know that Defense also has buses here and there, but that will only depend if there is a need for that. We have activated government fleet across all provinces to ensure that older persons and persons with disability get to the pay points to get their social grants. I do want to indicate here that we are working very well with the provinces, from the MECs who I am in touch with, I talk to them all the time, as well as the HODs and the regional managers of SASSA and NDA. We are really pushing to make sure that our systems step up and our systems are in place, but of course the test will be when the social grants, when the people want to access their social grants. We will publish the list and contact details of SASSA regional managers that members of the public can contact if they experience any challenges. The SASSA and SAPO call centers will remain operational to respond to the public. We are deploying SASSA officials at all pay points to monitor and report on service delivery challenges. We are also looking at getting volunteers who will be taken care of under the national development agencies, because we will need social grant. We will need the social grant recipients to be assisted, especially the elderly.
So, Flo, you would know that this measure has been put in place to ensure that, of course, issues relating to safety as well are taken seriously by the Department of Social Development. And you also recall that this also helps in the sense that in the past few months, the first 2 days of a grant payment saw extremely high transaction volumes of up to 4.7 million on day one and more than 2.5 million on day two. However, it must be borne in mind that a single beneficiary may also have more than one transaction, and the department is sincerely hoping that the volumes will not reach those highs of the previous months, after the call for grant beneficiaries to also allow the aged and those with disabilities to collect their grants on the first 2 days. Flo?
During the up and downs the past couple of days, and you've noted the fact that the spread of the coronavirus is likely to affect the most vulnerable. And here again, we're faced with a situation where people are being paid their grants all together at the same time, and there's sort of certain access points where they can get their money from. Has the government not perhaps looked at other ways with which people can get their money instead of the usual way? As we're all saying, it is not business as usual. So and I know you've pressed these sort of questions at the media briefings that we've been having the past couple of days. Has there been any clarity, Chriselda, in terms of the fact that more needs to be done to change the old methods? At the end of the day, what will be happening tomorrow and the following day when people receive their grants is that they will be running to those queues. Let's not forget that these people will then also need to be going to supermarkets so that they can get food. So then again, we've got the risk. So you may protect them tomorrow, but then they will be back in the queues at the supermarkets to get access to food at the end of the day. Has there been some kind of explanation, more of an explanation from the government in terms of what the next move really is? Because it can't continue this way.
Flo, considering the long lines or queues that we've seen over the past few days of South Africans queuing at retailers to buy their necessities, I'm really imagining that those who are amongst the most vulnerable, including the aged and those living with disabilities, who will receive their grants over the first 2 days, which is tomorrow as well as Tuesday, and then on the 1st of April, everyone else.
All right, we